Well, we are back. Hello, everybody. It is the first day of March 2022, and this is the next episode of the Inclusion Unscripted live stream from us here at Inclusion in Leadership, inclusioninleadership.com. And wow, do we have a guest for you? Somebody who I've already been online with today, the other side of the day, by the name of His Excellency, the Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nochols. How are you, Terry?
I am well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. What you guys are doing is fabulous.
Oh, we're honored to have you. And just for the audience, Terry is just an amazing guy. He is now an 8-time author. His 8th book, I think, came out. I think it was your 8th book today, Terry.
Yes.
You're a mentor. You're a strategist. He's an influencer, columnist, a speaker. He's a United Nations and a URGC, which is a Refugee Council ambassador. He's a lecturer and just an amazing man with an amazing story. And Terry, before we get into the questions relevant to inclusion and leadership, maybe spend a minute or two just telling us a little bit more about you and your background and how you got to do what you're doing.
Quite a story. We only have a short period of time, so let's abbreviate. The best way to say it, I was born to believe I was a 4th-generation Irish American white boy. When I was 32, I found out actually before we were Irish, we were Norwegian. And I did not know the origins of my mother. And at 46, I get a phone call from my brother, and I find out we're Native Americans. So my journey into the spirituality of indigenous people and my place in the world, this is actually where I've moved from Minneapolis, is the home of the original Chickamauga Cherokees way back before the move west, let's say. And so I graduated from high school and went straight into the Navy to see the world. That's exactly what I did. Just everything but the Pacific. And I did a great job at everything else. And picked up a couple of degrees on the way, an incredible daughter. And life has just brought me to a point where at different times in my life, people that I work for and around would take me aside and they say, you know what, you're different from the rest of the people. I want to take you under my wing and I want to mentor you. I want to give you a chance in life because you're different. And I have always appreciated that. And I have then done the same thing for people who work for me for the last 35 years. So, you know, our company was started in 2012 and Evolutionary Healer LLC, and it's now on 6 continents, 17 countries, 27 US states, doing business in 6 languages. So that's really the short of it. My activism for world peace and inner peace has really put me on this journey towards the refugees and globally. I was invited to become part of that, and I'm very honored to be. And ultimately, being invited to go through the training to become an at-large peace ambassador, which is a big part of who I am. So that's really the kind of the short journey to get me to where I am today.
That was wonderful. Nigel, I know you had a couple of questions.
Indeed. Ambassador, pleasure to meet you. We've heard so much about you, and we're really excited that you're with us today. You just shared with us your heritage as a descendant of Native Americans, especially here in the U.S. Can you share with us what you think are some of the challenges to true inclusion in the U.S. in the workplace?
The toughest part is always been the unspoken strategy of a lot of dominated societies, and that is keep everybody divided and as low and uneducated as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't realize how smart they are, they can't uprise against you and take away your power. So that is, here it is, the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen, and we're still doing this. This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, I just released a book that Simon was so kind to talk about today that talks about achievement-based, people-centric work. Okay. Hire brains. It doesn't matter what the coat they're wearing is. Hire their brains. There's magical people in the other categories if you want to go down that road. And it's time for us to just, let's just get together on this, and let's do the best for our communities. Let's do the best for our companies, and everything will just kind of take care of itself. Evolution is evolution. Like our company is evolutionary, eve of illumination. Healer is to heal thyself and heal the community. So Evolutionary Healer was born in 2012. I hope that answered your question to start off.
It's a great answer. Thank you. Eddie, speaking of organizations, any thoughts about some ways, mainstream organizations can go about really addressing the opportunity for equity and the process for inclusion?
That's a surprising question because I get answered it a lot or asked to me a lot. And it's very difficult. I have been on both sides of this answer.
Sure.
Okay. Before I became known as a Native American, I was one of those white boys sitting in the office in the C-level. You just can't shut down and fire half your population of your company, right, and hire new people because they wear a different coat. That's stupid. That's not good business practice. However, you can take away the application process and take out all of the little check marks that determine what kind of a coat that person is wearing before you even talk to them. You level the playing field. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's start with something like when a person sends in their resume, they send in this resume, and the people place. I don't like human resources. It's a negative word. Yeah. The people place assigns a reference number. And that's all you get to go by. Mm-hmm. And you hire 1238827Z because that person, not he, she, that person is incredible, fully capable of doing this job. Can't wait to have them in the office. And then when they come in and they're wearing whatever coat they are, you welcome them. Who cares? Right?
Love
now,
it.
If they come into the surgical suite in street clothes, that's not a good idea. Okay. So there's certain things that have to be accomplished. But if you take away all of these 200 or plus years of people being able to identify what community you live in southern London, police, right? There are people that, if you live in a certain part of a city, you're not considered for a C-level job or whatever. They don't want people down there who have protest problems in their community, that kind of stuff. That's just stupid. That, you're not building community. You're not building, we as C-level people, we have a duty to the community we live in and to our marketplace. My marketplace is 6 continents. So I have a lot of fun with that. And they're yet the mom and pop bakery on the corner that doesn't serve Asians because Pop was a Korean vet. That's just not real. Okay, that's just not real. That thought process has to stop being reinforced. And the only way to do that is to work with the youth so that the youth grow what we're talking about instead of the older people like myself trying to change their world. They can, but it's a slower process. But if all of the youth and the power of the cell phone starts taking over, you're going to listen. And here's the number one reason why: they have the money. Follow the currency, follow the money. Yeah. Right. If they start telling the government of Russia what to do because that government of Russia no longer has any money, they're not as powerful as they think. Same with US, same with everywhere else. We don't have to shoot guns to take back community.
You know, Terry, you mentioned follow the money. It's so true. I mean, you know, a lot of the prejudice and the discrimination in the Western world, anyway, I'm talking about the Western world, kind of arose out of what the Spanish and the Portuguese and the Dutch and the French and the British were doing in the 15th, 16th century. And the four pillars of society were white male. They were military, politics, religion, and business. And here we are 500-600 years later, and we're still figuring this stuff out. But it was all driven by money, you know. And Wei, I know you had a couple of points you wanted to raise as well.
Yeah. So nice to meet you, Terry. I think part of you have the unique perspective that came as you alluded to, white, and then all of a sudden you discovered your multi-ethnic identity. And that journey, I would like you to provide some comments on. In the workplace, how would that transpire? Because it's very easy to say they should assimilate to the way, you know, they just don't fit. And as you know, like as you alluded to earlier, when you get that application and the person qualifies on paper functionally, you are bringing somebody in with a different cultural background and so forth. And you having that C-level suite saying you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. How would you address that and say, you know, how do you open your mind, just not functionally and professionally, but culturally?
It's a two-way street. If I feel inferior to you, I am never going to fit. Okay. So my upbringing, my thought process, my filters must change as well. This is a circular problem. Okay. Indigenous America, not to pick on them, but you know, there are different parts of Indigenous America as with other ethnic groups that you're not dark enough, you're not light enough, you know, all that kind of stuff. What is that? Blood is blood. Okay, we're all pink and red in the inside. Give it up. The largest parts of the problem is, I believe, and I have seen it in corporate jobs that I've been in, and is fear of that other person. They're not quite sure how to handle them. And that fear is transmuted to the person. Now they are uncomfortable about being around you because they can feel this anxiety, but they don't know it's fear. They just know it's anxiety. And so having traditional indigenous, this is good for your listeners, traditional indigenous meetings were always in a circle. Nobody's against anybody. And a lot of very successful businesses, their main boardroom table doesn't have sides on it, right? It's oval or it's round. Or when everybody sits in meetings, they all sit in a circle, okay? So that whatever is going on in there, everybody's equal. Everybody has a chair and they have a voice. And those things are critical for going forward. It's just as much my responsibility to be approachable and being a good person in my company as it is for my company to be personally a good person to me. We both have an exchange of energy and a mindset. Okay. Now, if I'm not being treated well and I am a good person and I don't run around with these filters, then there's a problem. And then it's my responsibility to say, oh, what, boss, we have a problem here. And it's not me. Okay. When half of the people in a room treat me in a certain way, that's not me. Okay. That's too many different people.
Sure.
Now, at the same time, before I go talk to boss, I get to go talk to the man in the mirror that gets dressed with me every morning in the bathroom and say, okay, are you really your authentic self?
Yeah.
Are you the person you were hired? Because if you're not, you need to change now. Okay. If you are, now it's time to go talk to boss. Boss, I am the person you hired. and people are just not working with me. And it's up to you as the leader to change that energy in this place. Okay. It's not everybody in the place's responsibility to change it in one point. If the boss is not fully engaged in equality, then it will not happen. We're just humans. That's just the way it works. Okay. So I hope that answered your question, Wade.
Absolutely. I think that was excellent insights into that perspective. Very broad and as you alluded to, circular. There's not just one solution to the problem, and I think that again addresses a lot of the current issues, the apprehension to discuss the topic.
Yeah, so I would like to make a comment. The only female in the group, it's time for me to speak. And my colleagues will say to you that this is a miracle that I have not spoken for all this entire time, Ambassador. So nice to meet you and to have you here. And I got struck by two things you said. Number one was the divided strategy, that unspoken strategy that in our generation and the generation before us have been operating on, and the importance, number two, of the younger generation. And I am the proud mother of a Generation Z future leader. Actually, she is a leader right now. She's in college. And I have seen the evolution of her as well as her colleagues. But at the same time, she has been privileged to go to an Ivy League education, an Ivy League institution. So not all Generation Zs have that privilege. And what I would like is for you to leave us with the following. For people like us that have that Generation Z, kids, what can we do to empower them so they know the importance of inclusion? Because I know we've been talking about from an organizational standpoint in the C-suite, we know that, but these are the young people that are filtering in. What is it that we need to ensure that they are empowered, no matter if they're white, African-American, Native American, Latina, no matter what they are, Asian American? What do we need to give them so they're empowered and they don't fear? They don't have that fear that you have mentioned.
Yeah, wonderful question, Elizabeth. It starts with us as the parents. Teach them to be human. Teach them to be part of the society. Teach them to be proud to be a Chickamauga Cherokee or a Black man in society or a woman in society. It starts with inner peace. If there's a saying in indigenous societies all over the world in various ways, but it really comes down to my teachings from my elders since I found out I was Chickamauga, and that is, you can't give what you don't have. So if you're not loving yourself, you can't give love. And a perfect example of that is somebody who doesn't love themselves is probably going to have multiple marriages and other things because they're not capable, right? So if we don't provide the opportunity and the example for our children to think independently, Einstein said it great. I can't remember exactly what he said, but teach people to think. Education is to give you education. It's up to society to teach you how to think, right? And that's the most important thing. My daughter, I am so proud of her. She elected not to go to college. That's fine. Okay. And she went out and had a real good time for a few years.
Good for her.
And she is, oh, she did what? She should have gotten married. Oh, forget it. If it was a guy and he went out and had fun for 3 or 4 years before he found himself, they'd think, hey, good for you. But a woman? No. Yeah. Okay. She went out and had a good time. She found what she is really good at in a part-time job. And 20 some years later, she's one of the best at what she does. And she still hasn't been to college. So what? The people that hire her hire the incredible experience she has and the breadth of knowledge that few people have. So she doesn't really have any competition. your daughter's in a perfect place right now, because I believe that in the greater space of time, and it's coming to the fore right now, is this basic point. The cell phone and your wrist phone kind of communication, those Z's are going to control this world while they're still young, because they're not putting up with this. They say no. Okay. We as babies and children and teenagers of the 60s, we started that with the shift in the age of Aquarius, the coming together, the Aqua people. These kids are saying, I'm way smarter than this. I'm not putting up with this. What kind of propaganda are you putting at me? Forget it. And all of my friends are going to forget it. They have the power, because like I mentioned at the beginning of this wonderful conversation, currency pays power. Currency is the power. And the ultra rich, I think, get that. And so they keep us fighting with each other as fast as we can to keep us from unifying. Because as soon as we unify and everybody starts speaking together, protests will be 500,000 people, not 50 or 80. They'll all come out and they'll say, you're not doing this.
Right.
And Mr. and Mrs. Politician, I am not going to elect you. And I'm certainly not going to re-elect you if you're going to get into my office that I'm working hard for you to be in, and you start touting the influential PACs and all of the rest of those. You're out of there. This is not the time. This is not the place for our children to be passive.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think on that answer, I think that's a perfect way to end this. Given what the world is facing in the last week, Ambassador Terry, I think that's wonderful, and huge amount of food for thought in that conversation. And I'd like to thank the viewers for tuning in. I know we've got viewers from around the world watching, and I'd encourage all of you to keep commenting as this feed flows through LinkedIn. And I'd like to remind you all that our next live stream is in 2 weeks. We have another amazing guest to follow Ambassador Terry by the name of Furkan Karayel. She has just released a book called Inclusive Intelligence. So we'll have a great conversation there. And I'd like to thank all of you. And just to remind you, our website is inclusioninleadership.com. And we'll see you next time. Ambassador Terry, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.